Hello, and a very big welcome to all of you joining us today. We are at a pivotal moment in human history, with the future of our planet hanging in the balance. If we're to succeed in protecting biodiversity and the communities it sustains, we need to work together, now. In this special online event, in partnership with the British Council in China, we will be looking at our connection to nature and what is more important than ever, and why the upcoming UN Biodiversity Conference and UN Climate Change Conference could be the most important international agreements of our lifetime. This event is part of a year-long program called Our Broken Planet: How We Got Here and Ways to Fix It. Today, my guests and I will be discussing reconnecting with nature and how reconnecting and revisiting our relationship with the natural world could save the planet. And this is your chance to ask questions too. So do post any questions or comments in the chat and we'll answer as many of them as we can. My first guest today is Lauren Cook. Lauren is a molecular ecologist and PhD candidate based at the Natural History Museum in London. Her research focuses on the study of environmental DNA and other molecular tools to study ecosystems, including emergent pathogen ecology in aquaculture and biodiversity. She's also an award-winning freelance artist and stop-motion animator using her platform to promote UK wildlife and connection to nature. Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Hi, Alistair. I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm really looking forward to chatting to you today. And joining myself and Lauren is Meng Fei. Meng Fei is the director and a trustee of Green Kunming, an environmental NGO that operates in Kunming, China. Green Kunming is dedicated to solving environmental problems through public participation and advocacy. Their investigatory and communication work, including involving the local community in citizen science projects, has led to the protection and restoration of ancient woodland and groundwater around Bianchi Lake on the Law. Hello, Meng. It's great to have you. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. So it's lovely to have both of you here. I'm really looking forward to chatting to both of you about this, because the topic of reconnecting with nature and our climate is such a big topic. There's so much we can cover. And as we said as well, we've got the upcoming COP15 and COP26 UN conferences, which really are bringing these issues to the fore. So I'm really looking forward to finding out what you both think about this. But let's start by looking first at the future, because it's very easy, I think, in these topics to get quite bogged down, quite pessimistic when we learn about how the climate's changing and the effect of pollution and so forth on our planet. And it can be quite a bit of a downer. Let's start the show, though, by thinking optimistically, thinking towards the future. If our planet is broken and our relationship with nature is weakened, what do you imagine a perfect future could actually look like? So Lauren, I'll come to you first. What do you imagine a perfect future might look like?
Well, it's a huge question, isn't it? But, it's a great way to think about it. And, if we think about our perfect future, it's nature and people thriving together. We're working alongside each other. Nature has the space it needs. We can give some space back to nature. So the oceans and lands and lakes are rewilded. We've got wildflower meadows, forests, coral reefs, oyster beds. Everything's kind of flourishing, and there's no wildlife crime. There's social and environmental justice. We've got a lot to do, basically.
We certainly do, but it's really great to to think about what that might future looks like. And I guess central to what your vision is this idea of we're living with the natural world, and there's inherent value in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic. And Meng Fei, what about yourself? What do you imagine a utopian future might look like?
My answer is much simple. Maybe it's like everyone has a willingness and the capability and the opportunity to live harmoniously with each other and the nature.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that's very central to it, is the idea that we're living harmoniously with nature, not necessarily exploiting it, finding value in nature for what it is rather than what we turn it into, exploiting a natural resource. So my next question for both of you is, do you think we can achieve that, given where we are at the moment? Meng-Fei, I'll come to you. Do you think we can achieve this utopian vision?
It's difficult, but the point here is not about achieving a perfect situation. Our Earth will die when sun burn out. What matters here is the direction of our life, our attitude of living as human. Every step toward the goal is meaningful.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's very true. And Lauren, what about you? Do you feel the same? Do you think this is something we could achieve?
That puts in perspective, doesn't it? I think that it's a lot, and if we all work together, I think we can. Better legislation and things like that. Or every step, as Meng-Fei has just said, every step's going to make a difference. So we can't get bogged down by the overwhelmingness of the situation. That every step that is achievable. Just to give an example, marine protected areas, only about 3% of the oceans are protected. And in the UK, within our protected areas that we have, which are very minimal, 98% of them are trawled. And better legislation and things like that it can make a difference, and it will, and it has already. So we just need to carry on. And it is difficult, but we can do it. We've got to be optimistic.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Now, we've had a question come in from one of our viewers on YouTube. CJ is asking, what are some of the ways that people in cities can connect to nature? So that's a good question, because I think I think most people on Earth today live in an urban environment, a very unnatural environment usually. So what are some of the ways people in those cities could connect to nature? Meng-Fei, I'll come to you first. Do you have any suggestions? Obviously you do a lot of work in an urban environment. How can people connect to nature in an urban environment?
I think it's based on your situation. We Kunming have a lake, we have mountain, so we can organize some activity around the lake, and something like climbing the mountain and hiking the river and in the lake. So I think it's based on your situation, different city.
Yeah,
that's really good point.
And I think a key thing you said there was being able to take people to sort of wild places that are close to the city and introducing them to that environment. Lauren, what about you? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up in London, so for me it's really on the nose. And there's all you need. You don't even need a garden. You need if you've got a windowsill, you can put a window box out with flowers and just kind of watch. Just basically get out there, look around, and you will start to notice all of these things that are right under your nose. For example, in the winter lockdown, I was sat in my room, and just outside my window, I noticed we had a load of long-tailed tits that kept coming into the tree. And every day, it brought me joy, and I started to notice more birds. And that we do have a lot of nature in cities, but you just have to look for it. And it's like anything, once you start noticing it, you notice more and more.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Obviously I live in London as well, but I actually, I'm originally from Scotland, and I grew up in a more rural setting. But genuinely, I think I see more wildlife in London than I have sometimes in the countryside, because there's so many things, whether it be foxes and squirrels or various insects around the flowers and things. There's a lot of wildlife in cities, but it is a case of recognizing it, trying to spot it and see it. So it is there. So let's move on a little bit now. Both of you are involved in different projects in your local areas, in your local communities, that are trying to drive positive change. Let's find out a little bit more about that. I'll start with you, Meng-Fei. Can you tell us a little bit about the project that you're involved in, which is Green Kunming? Tell us, what exactly is that, and what do you do?
We implement 2 programs now. The first is about climate. Compared with English word, there are very few high quality and updated popular science work on climate in Chinese word. So we are translating climate literacy from English to Mandarin. This is examples. Then we teach climate in classroom with this material and methods. This is a scene in classroom.
Next, so is kind of climate science and teaching kids about climate science something that's not, there isn't the kind of culture for it so much, which is why you're having to translate these materials from other countries into Mandarin for the children to understand.
Yeah, because the climate science originated from US. NASA launched the first satellite monitoring the Earth's data in about 1970s. So we, as developing countries, have to introduce the material of climate education from abroad.
And do the kids enjoy it?
Yeah, they love watching the videos and do some experiments.
I love, this is a lovely photo of you in a class. Those children look very, very happy to be there.
Yeah, they want to something other than the normal curricular.
And it's not just in the classroom, is it? You also have projects that go beyond there, don't you?
Yeah, the second project is about conversation. We organize volunteers to visit the museum. Then we can understand the local lakes, its history and the status quo, its biodiversity and its beauty. And we do something like beach cleanup to protect them. This is a scene in the Dianchi Lake. This is a cleanup example.
It looks like that's quite a big job for them to do. How do you actually go about clearing all the rubbish off the beach?
We clean so much trash around the beach.
And you've got to carry it off on these boards. And who is it? Is it young people that you're getting to do this kind of work, to kind of take pride in their local environment? Is that part of what you're trying to do?
Young people as volunteers translate the works on climate. They dub videos. Almost in every activity we organized, young people play the major role.
And do you find, I imagine, do you find there's maybe a generational difference, that young people, because you're helping them to connect with this local environment in a way that maybe their parents didn't do? Do you find that there's definitely a much stronger interest from young people in caring about this environment than perhaps previous generations?
Yeah, young people are quite interested joining our activity. Through the activity, they learn much more about biodiversity and the beauty of the local lake.
Fantastic. And what would you say at this point? What is the biggest challenge that you face in delivering this message and getting people to reconnect?
The biggest challenge is human resource. There are only a few people who really know about climate change in China, and only a few people who are willing to do this kind of job with professional knowledge and amateur passion. That's our biggest challenge.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? It's really lovely to hear the work that you're doing, because, of course, we know that any solution to the climate crisis is going to be a global one. It needs international agreement, and we're going to talk in a little bit about the upcoming talks that are going to be taking place, because yeah, it's, whether it be in China or here in the UK, it's going to take a lot of effort from people all over the world to make that happen. So it's been really great to hear about the projects that you've been working on. So we've just had another question come in. This one on YouTube, from Kerry on YouTube. Let me put this one to you. Do you think the internet has helped people connect to the natural world, or is it a detriment? For example, you can find much more resources now, but screen time can take you away from the moment. That's a really interesting question, actually, because, yeah, in some ways the internet is opening up a lot more. I mean, we're having this conversation now. It wouldn't be possible without the internet. You know, Lauren and myself, sort of UK based, and Mengfei, you're in China. So the internet certainly got some advantages. What do you think of that? Mengfei, I'll come to you. Do you think the internet is helping us connect, or is it a detriment? Did you hear that, Mengfei?
Sorry, the connection is bad. Can you repeat?
No worries. I'll ask again.
Ironically.
Do you think the internet has helped connect people to the natural world, or has it actually been a bad thing?
You mean internet connect people with nature, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we use internet to connect Chinese audience with the producer of the climate science in around the world.
Excellent. Yeah, and Lauren, what about yourself? What's your take on that? Do you think the internet's an asset or otherwise?
I think it's definitely an asset. Similar to what Mengfei just said, it connects people to the education, and often if you kind of hear about, if you actually learn about what's going on with the environment, or you hear an interesting fact from someone, or it can make you appreciate whatever that species is in a new way. So a lot of people don't like wasps because they might annoy us, they might sting us, but actually when the internet has told us that wasps are really, really important in terms of predation, like keeping other pests down, pollination and things like that, and then you might think, oh, actually, do you know what, I'm not gonna kill this one. Like I actually appreciate that they're very extremely important, and I don't think that if we didn't have that access to the knowledge, then we might not really realize how important it is. But of course, the screen time does take us out of the moment, and it's good also to have a balance. Just leave your phone behind sometimes, and just get out there and have some mindful moments in nature, because that can really help too. So yeah, really good, really great question.
Yeah, I think the key word that you used there, Lauren, was balance. I was going to say I think the internet has been a huge asset, and it's almost leading to the fact that ignorance is not an excuse anymore, because we have access to so much information about nature, but we should still be going out there and experiencing it in a very real, tangible way, and not sitting behind screens doing it. Very ironic to be saying all this while we're currently all sitting behind our laptop screens, but there you go. So Lauren, I'd like to come to you next and just find out a little bit more about what you do. So I mentioned in your introduction that you're a PhD student at the museum, and you're looking at something called eDNA. For those that maybe haven't heard that term before, what exactly is it, and what do you do?
Yeah, so eDNA is short for environmental DNA, which is just DNA that's left behind in the environment, in other words. So any organism that is moving through any kind of type of environment, like oceans, lakes, soil, even the air, and it's snow, anything like that, it will be shedding bits of itself and leaving bits behind, a bit like kind of wildlife forensics. And this can be through things like scales, fur, mucus, feces, anything like that. And all you need to do is take a scoop of whatever it is. So, for example, Mengfei's lake that they've cleared up of all the plastic. If we took a scoop of that lake water, we'd actually be able to see what lives there, from the microbes that live in the water, all the way up to fish and mammals that are moving through that environment. So yeah, it's super exciting for biodiversity monitoring, and it's quite new. It's sort of in the last 10 years being used in sort of ecology research and things like that. So that's kind of what my PhD is based on.
That's really, it's really quite exciting to hear about that, because I remember, you know, I studied zoology at university nearly 20 years ago. And I remember a professor talking about what the dream would be for monitoring biodiversity, because the dream would be to be able to just go out there and take a sample of the water or the soil or whatever and analyze it, and it would tell you what was there. Or if you were out in the field, you could sample a piece of an organism and be able to, it would tell you what it is. You know, those were kind of the dreams, and we've actually got there. That's what's so tremendous about this, that you can now go, and you don't even have to take stuff back to a lab to analyze it, do you? You can analyze it in the field if you need to.
Yeah, dreams do come true. They've got these tiny little devices that you can take out to the field with you, and you put a tiny bit of a sample on, and it reads the DNA just on spec. It's incredible.
Fantastic. Now I want to talk a little bit about your artwork, because not only are you doing your research on biodiversity and eDNA, but you're a very talented artist. You've won awards for your art, and we'll take a look at some of it just now. Can you tell us how you're using art to help reconnect people to the natural world?
Yeah, exactly. So it started out, I mean, you know, I did arts and things prior to studying biology, but I actually linked the two during my master's. I had to give a presentation that, and I noticed a bit of my presentation was just so boring, and I knew that everyone was going to fall asleep in the room. So I thought, do you know what, I'm going to make a stop frame animation and just hope that people might take it in a bit more what I'm saying and not just zone out immediately. And a lot of people are visual learners as well, so it's kind of it sticks with people a little bit more, I found. And since then, I have started working with wildlife organisations and places like that to promote their messages and just try and raise the profile of some of these problems. So these are all stills from my animations. This is one I did for Hen Harrier Day, and this was sort of explaining the importance of wildflower meadows and how we can promote nature in cities as well. So just trying to reach those audiences that might not be that interested in science through art, and hopefully they might not realize you're kind of being educated because you get sucked into the pretty colors and things like that.
Yeah, our picture is a very, very powerful thing. It's interesting you talk about visual learners. I think a lot of people are like that, and you can remember a striking image far more clearly perhaps than just hearing a passage of text or something like that. You'll remember a picture. And we've got, let's have a look at some of your animation action, because I think we can watch a little bit of your animation actually working. So we'll take a look at that, and maybe Lauren, you can talk us through what your thinking was behind it, sure. Because it's really striking to see them when they come to life. So hopefully we can play that now. I'm just thinking actually that this is maybe these are the kind of videos that Meng Fei will be translating for his students in China.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So this one is all about eDNA, of course. And it was made for the Natural History Museum to educate the citizen scientists who were helping to do some sampling for eDNA, so that we could monitor how an urban park was improving and how the wildlife was all coming back. So this kind of scene is just trying to explain that for every species, for every type of organism that there is, thinking about these butterflies, they all look quite similar. You need experts to be able to identify them by what they look like, and you'll need a different expert for every kind of organism that you're looking at. So you might need a beetle specialist, a tree specialist, bugs of all kinds, deer, anything like that. You need to source these different people to be able to help you identify them, so that we know if things are improving or declining. And a way that we can get around this and speed up the process is by using environmental DNA. So we don't even need to know that an organism's been there to tell that it is there. And yes, so it's just a bit of a background to what DNA is. And yeah, I made this with my older brother using a mixture of stop motion animation and motion graphics. So yeah, hopefully people have had a little bit more background. Not didn't matter what their expertise was initially. That was the aim.
Yeah, no, it's great to see it in action. I love that DNA strand, which has that kind of plasticine look about it, which is really
Wallace
cool.
and Gromit.
And do you know what? It's funny actually, because when you talk about visual learning, I'm thinking the first time I learned about DNA was from the animation that appears in Jurassic Park.
Nice.
When they're talking about cloning the dinosaurs, Mr. DNA, that was when I first learned about DNA. I think I was about 9 at the time, and that does show you that this stuff is really, really powerful. And are you finding this is your one way of you connecting, particularly to young people that are maybe going to be more responsive to this sort of thing?
Oh yeah, exactly, definitely. I think the good thing about these animations is they can be quite short and easily shared, and I've done some animations that have been played in schools, for wildlife festivals and things like that. I did one for the Beaver Trust that was on there, that in a pack that they send out to schools so that they could learn about beavers. So at school age, it's a great, well, sort of tooting my own horn here, but they're good ways to get people to just sit down and watch it, and it's succinct, and it's tried to explain in a way that people can understand. So it doesn't really matter what age you are to be able to have a look at it. Yeah.
And your work's featured in exhibitions and things, hasn't it?
Yeah. I recently did an online exhibition with the British Ecological Society about nature-based solutions to climate change. And I worked with a landscape architect to create this. So he is from Scotland, like a landscape architect company, and he knows all of these amazing solutions to climate change that seem really simple. So this painting was trying to show some of those, along with the message that you need to step outside of your own perspective. And so these are all paired images. The one on the left is a fox looking at a beetle, and then it's supposed to be a beetle's eye view, and it's trying to show how the wildflower meadows attract insects, which then attract their predators. The next one's to do with pedestrianised street and green modes of transport, like anything with wheels. So we've got skateboarder, and how people use green parks in different ways. So someone's there reading a book sat under a shade tree, which is a great way to keep cities cool. So it was so interesting for me to learn all of this technical planning, things that's going to happen hopefully in cities, and it already is starting to be happened as well. But yeah, just trying to get that across in an artistic way, instead of you having to go and read an article or doing a load of research. It was a really good fun project.
Brilliant. Awesome. Well, thank you, Lauren. That's been really, really great to hear about that, and it's lovely seeing some of your artwork here. It's really, really lovely. I'm just going to pause for a quick second. We've had another question come in from one of our viewers online. Let me put this. I might put this one to Meng Fei, if you don't mind. This question is: I'm going to clean up a London river to help local eels with some volunteers tomorrow. Do you have any suggestions for how to involve and empower the public who see us or who are friends with us? Meng Fei, as someone who's been involved in a lot of projects in your home city, what advice would you give this person in terms of how can they empower the local public who might see this going on?
Sorry, I'm not following you. The connection is bad.
Oh yeah, so here we go. The internet is failing to connect us. Meng Fei, can you hear me?
I can better hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay, don't worry. I'll pose that question to Lauren instead. So yeah, Lauren. So this person's going to a London River cleanup tomorrow, and they want to know how they can sort of encourage
Spread
and
the
empower the
word.
people that might be seeing them.
Yeah, interesting. I guess it's just kind of ease of access, isn't it? Knowing how to sign up to help the eels. People might not realise that, like what to search, how to get involved, whether they need to actually, have an experience in it before. I think just kind of doing your best to tell your friends and family, maybe put it on your social media, put a big sign up when you're doing it, the old-fashioned way, and just show people that you're having great fun, you're doing something really worthwhile. Tell people that, I think, and make it easy to get involved. That's all you can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Empower
making it look fun.
Yeah,
because people are going to be curious, I guess, when they see it.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Exactly.
Excellent. Meng Fei, I don't know if you want to contribute anything to that. Did you hear that?
I can see the question. Normally, we have two parts in our activity in such like cleanup. One is about normal work, cleanup. The other one is about something joy. We would like to help our volunteer to enjoy the beauty of the environment. They will kayak in the river, and only about half of the activity is about cleaning up. So they will enjoy the whole cause. We spread some knowledge about plastic, about pollution.
Excellent. Yes,
Really
I
good
think
point.
that's really good. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for your questions. If you've got any more to put to Meng or Lauren, please do send them in, and we'll try and get through as many as we can before we finish. So the last bit I want to talk to you about is the upcoming conferences that people might have heard about in the news. So we've got two very significant events coming up: COP15 and COP26, which might not mean anything to people. They're not the catchiest titles. COP basically stands for the UN Conference of the Parties, and there's a meeting on climate change and another one on biodiversity. And these are big international events where delegates from all over the world come together to discuss these issues and hopefully find some ways forward and solutions to the problems that the climate and biodiversity is currently facing. Let's talk a little bit about these. Meng Fei, if you can still hear me, I was going to ask you if you could send a message to the delegates at these conferences, what would it be?
To the delegates.
Yes.
We may die within 100 years. The meaning of the meeting may live long. Perhaps it will be revealed by our descendants from 2100 or 2200. It's a vital chance to give them a better world, make them appreciate your courage, your wisdom. Please take a longer perspective to judge your work today. That's it.
Yeah, no, a really good point, I think. And I really like the point you make about a longer perspective, because I think a lot of governments across the world are guilty of only thinking 4 or 5 years ahead, or however long their term in power is. Maybe a little bit longer, maybe 10 years, possibly 20 if you've got a big infrastructure project or something like that. But so much thinking is very, very short term. And actually, we need to be thinking much, much bigger, much longer term, I think, for if we're going to be able to solve this. So yeah, really, really great point there. Lauren, in your opinion, how significant are these talks actually going to be? Because there's been a lot of rhetoric that, this is a key point in history. If we're going to deal with this, it needs to happen now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of at the very latest in the day we can get, aren't we? So they're just, you can't underestimate how important it is to make change at this point. Everyone thought the Paris Agreement was going to be, everyone came away from that feeling really optimistic, and we can get to 1.5 degrees of warming, but we know now that that is extremely unlikely, and it's going to be at least, higher than 2.7 degrees, which is going to make mass flooding and everything like that. And I think if we come away from these talks appreciating the emergency of it, I think that just really needs to get across. And we can make these drastic changes. We know we can, because we've just done a pandemic. Well, we're almost done with the pandemic, hopefully. And I think as well, from a UK perspective, having it in the UK is really important, because we're actually, we're in the bottom 10% of most nature depleted countries in the world. So, it's kind of embarrassing having it on our doorstep, where we've basically decimated more than 50% of our wildlife. And, it really needs to hit home now. So I think it hopefully will be as significant as it should be, fingers crossed.
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. Time will tell.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a big there's definitely a big thing about raising just everybody, not just the delegates at these conferences, but the general public as well, just being made really aware. And I think, you mentioned the pandemic, Lauren, which I think is really interesting, because the entire world, you couldn't miss it. It was a global catastrophe, and the entire world had to respond to it, and responded really fast.
Yeah.
And actually, we need that kind of awareness and a response on that scale, I think, if we're going to successfully tackle it. And we might cover COVID again in a few minutes, because it's definitely had an impact on a lot of things. Meng Fei, if I can come to you, I hope you can still hear me, and the connection is holding. My next question I wanted to ask you is, based on your experience, what is your expectation of the outcome of these talks?
There are huge gap between international agreement and the local law enforcement. I hope these talks would be a beginning to more open communication. We need more channel to share the discovery about climate. We can't access Google, Twitter, YouTube, etc. But they are market of mind, including climate science. So we need more channel.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely true. And I said at the top of the show, it's very easy to get quite pessimistic when you're talking about this kind of thing. That you think, oh, it's going to be too difficult. The challenge is too big. I think it's important that we keep a positive mindset when we're talking about this. And Lauren, do you think, is there cause for optimism in something like this? I think you've definitely said that we need to remain optimistic.
You have to. Otherwise, what's the point of trying? And what's the point of getting out of bed in the morning? We have to do what we can. That we've seen how these changes can be made. I think one example is, rewilding projects. They're super optimistic, and we've seen storks return to England. We're getting beavers, hopefully, given native status. I think every little bit that people are doing, it is making a difference, and you just have to keep trying. We can't give up. We have to be hopeful. So there are many reasons for optimism.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. And Meng Fei, are you optimistic for the future?
Yeah, I have seen some example for my optimistic. I hope the agreement could design a mechanism which make it possible for more institutions to give up copyright of climate popular science work, like NASA, provide the option to download their videos made for education. And more companies give up the patent of technology on clean energy, like Tesla. There are so many examples. Keep me optimistic.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think it's very interesting the point you make about freeing up copyright and patents for technology and work on climate to spread it wider so more people can use it and take advantage of it. And interestingly, that's something that I think the COVID-19 pandemic has actually raised a similar question, because there's been a lot of calls for the drug manufacturers to be more open about the vaccines that they're developing and to allow more manufacturers to make them more quickly. There definitely is a theme of greater collaboration and transparency and sharing of technology and information to help solve these problems. And on that note, actually, about COVID-19, have either of you felt that conservation efforts in your area have been affected by the pandemic? Lauren, if I come to you first, do you feel that COVID-19 has had an impact on conservation efforts?
Yeah, I mean, apart from grants and things getting cancelled, unfortunately, people not being able to get into the labs necessarily and do field work, I think in some ways it has slowed it down or delayed things that were happening already. But I think I'm optimistic that there's going to be a bit of a delayed response, because a lot of people have become really connected to nature in lockdown. We've been forced to go outside. We've been going for walks all through the winter, cycling, wild swimming and things, and it's just increased everyone's awareness of their local environments. For example, people, wild swimming and noticing that there's really bad levels of E. coli from sewage that's being pumped into the rivers, and standing up for nature more and speaking out to politicians. And I think that has definitely, increased in directly because of the pandemic. So
no, I think that's really interesting. I think the point you make about we've been going out a lot more in COVID, I think certainly in the UK, we've seen a value in open space that maybe not everybody appreciated before, and maybe that's a positive thing that's coming out of this whole situation. Meng-Fei, can I quickly ask you, have you noticed any impact from COVID-19 on conservation efforts in your part of the world?
Our work was severely affected by COVID-19 because half our work were organized outdoor, and mass congregation was prohibited in Kunming, and only half our work can continue because it's via internet. So it's a pity.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're coming out of the worst of it now, so we can hopefully have turned a corner. But we'll have to wait and see. Now we're almost out of time, guys. We're just about finished. But very, very quickly, I wonder if I could ask each of you, for our viewers today, what advice would you give our viewers to help them reconnect to nature in their local communities? Lauren, I'll come to you first. What advice would you give?
I would say, well, I said it before, get out there, just get out into nature. You will notice the effects physically on your mental health and, physical health. You can also do some artwork if you started trying to draw animals. I dare you not to spend a day drawing birds and then not to appreciate when you see one in real life. And yeah, just start looking.
Excellent. And Meng-Fei, what advice would you give?
Okay, I think everyone has power. Join an NGO or establish one. Once organized, together we can achieve more.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much to both of you. We have run out of time, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to call it there, I think. But I just want to say it's been really great talking to you, and thanks, Meng-Fei, for putting up with the connection troubles that we've had. I think you did a really great job. It just shows you the internet's a great thing for bringing us together, but it has to work as well, doesn't it? But it's been lovely talking to you, and I just want to wish you all the best in your future projects. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, you too. It was great to meet you as well, Meng-Fei.
Thanks for having me. My honor.
Excellent. Thank you both. And thank you as well for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. This event has been part of the museum's Our Broken Planet program that combines live and online events like the one you've been watching and a brand new display in our museum galleries. If you want to know a bit more about the program, do check it out on our website and follow all of our social media channels. Do keep an eye out for the future events at the museum on our social media channels. And until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.